was recently on the Moth main stage. He has been featured on Snap Judgment. He is also the author of American Sexy. Please give a very warm welcome to the very talented Adam Linn.
I was lost. Not literally lost. I knew where I was. I was in San Francisco, and it was the spring of 1998, but I had lost my way. See, I had moved out to California from Boston a few months before with the promise of a dream job. When I got there, there was a hiring freeze. Yeah. So I find myself in the most expensive city in America, no job, student loans, no prospects, a complete failure in my own eyes. And what made this really sting was that no one, especially my mother, had wanted me to leave Boston for California in the first place. And this was actually the culmination of a 10-year battle I'd been having with my mother about moving to California. It started when I was in high school. I got this idea in my head, maybe freshman year, that what I would do is study really, really hard, and that I would get into Stanford. I just got this in my head. I will get into Stanford, which is such a great school that no one, not even my clingy mother, could say I couldn't go to California. And so I studied, and I put my head down. And senior year, the letters are coming out from the colleges, and I get the envelope from Stanford. I open it up, and I got in. I got into Stanford, right? It was like this volcano of joy in my stomach, like, I'm going to California. I don't know about the rest of you, right? So there's my mother in the dining room, and she's got the envelope in her hand, and I turn around just like, so Mom, it's Stanford. You know, what do you think? What do I think? What do I think, smart guy? What do I think? I think a guy like you is not jumping on a plane and going out to California, because if a guy like you gets on a plane and goes out to California without a clue, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to join a cult, you're going to get hooked on heroin, you're going to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Excuse me? Join a cult, hooked on heroin, jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And it was always in that order. Now I understand that logically the bridge does have to conclude the sequence, but I mean, you could flip the heroin and the cult just to mix it up a little sometimes. But, and she said this a lot. Many, she had thought this through. And so I had this image of me in saffron robes with a hypodermic in my neck and just you know, falling to the cool Pacific air, the dark water of the bay under me. And this is not the image you want to have on what should be, you know, one of the happiest days of your life. So I was very angry at my mother for having acted this way. So now here I was, all these years later. I got my courage up, and I, you know, screw this. I'm moving to California. And I get out there, and I fall on my face. And I had plenty of free time, drinking a lot of Pete's coffee. I'm walking around DuBose Park, and I get a telephone call from an old friend of mine, Tim. And he and I had been close when we were young, but we'd gone different paths. I went to college, he went into the police academy, and it turned out he was in California, and he was going to be in San Francisco, and could he crash on my couch for a few days? And so, you know, if you're young and you're far from home, the familiar voice is great. So Tim shows up, and he was the perfect house guest for what I needed right then. He's a big bear of a guy, and he likes playing the tourist, very flamboyant. He's got a Hawaiian shirt on, and he's listening to Tony Bennett, and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do sourdough bread and cable cars, like every cliche, but it was exactly what I needed at that point in my life. It was great. So it was the last night of Tim's visit, and we were in the Tonga Room at the Fairmont Hotel. If any of you know the Tonga, I mean, for those of you who don't know the Tonga, just imagine the tackiest tiki bar you've ever seen and put it on anabolic steroids. I mean, there are a 25-piece ukulele orchestra in the middle of a faux lagoon. It's really, I mean, they're good at being over the top. It's unbelievable. So we're there at the table, and there's like a mock hurricane blowing, and Tim's hair is in the wind, and he is so in his element. He just says, you know, I envy you so much. You know, you got the world by the tail out here. And I said, Tim, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I'm blind. I just moved out to California to get this job. I got no job. I got no money. I mean, the rent is unbelievable. I don't know, you know, do I get on Prozac? Do I move home with my mother? I don't know what to do. And I didn't realize it, but I had really touched a nerve with Tim because he was really admiring me being out there. And he's like, are you kidding me? I mean, you gotta be kidding me. You are the biggest complaining, bitchin', moaning motherfucker I have ever met in my entire life. You were always like this, but now I think you're even worse. I mean, look at you. You're young, you got your health. You know, I mean, look around. Well, I mean, you can't do that, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm stuck there in Boston being a cop doing whatever my family wants, and you out there, you know, the cojones to come out here. I can't believe it. Stop complaining. Tell you what, take me for a drive. And he throws his car keys in the middle of the table. Now, a piece of information that I do have to give you right here is that when Tim and I were young, he had a GTO muscle car, convertible. And because he was a cop, we could kind of get away with a lot of things. And so I had driven his car on a couple of occasions. But this was in beach parking lots after parties on Cape Cod. I mean, this wasn't in a major metropolitan area. So Tim gets up, he senses my hesitation, he puts his hand on my arm, he's like, what are you worried about? It's a rental. And so we go downstairs, we're on Mason Street, it's a Buick Park Avenue. I get in on the driver's side, he gets in on the passenger side, and I keep thinking Tim's gonna say, let's go back to your apartment. And maybe I'm hoping Tim will say that, right? So I put the key in the ignition, turn the engine over, and I'm driving. We're on Mason Street. And, you know, Tim has obviously got to play navigator here. This is how we did it before. You know, so as we're driving along, you know, left, right, garbage truck, left, right, give him the horn, give him the horn. And after a few minutes of this, I'm done. I'm okay. This is enough. We've proven your point, Tim. We're okay. We're done. I said, Tim, you know, let's pull over. You take the wheel, okay? And he makes this sound like, what are you, crazy? He's like, I didn't come all the way out here just to drive up and down this little street. He's like, I kind of thought this out ahead of time a little bit, maybe. Let me just bounce this idea off here, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know. I know. Has any blind guy ever driven a car over the Golden Gate Bridge? I never heard of one. I looked in Guinness World Record. I don't know. I never heard of this. I just think, if you drove us over the bridge, that'd be something to tell our grandkids, huh? And this is where I could have said no. And one would think I should have said no, right? But I already told you. I was lost. I felt like I didn't have a lot to live for. So rather than saying no, I said, okay, but we've got to change the music. I will not do this to Tony Bennett. So Tim rustles around on the floor. He puts in another CD. And this is where I have to make a quick aside here. This is very important. I am by no means blaming or trying to implicate Tina Turner in anything I did that night. I take responsibility for my actions. But as we drove down the hill toward the bridge, and the opening notes of River Deep, Mountain High came pouring from the speakers of that car, and I heard Tina say, when I was a little girl, something happened in my head, and my foot went to the floor, and we hit that bridge doing about 60. So, and the windows were down, and that cold Pacific air was coming through like a river, and that music was loud, and I was alive, let me tell you. I was alive in a way I had never been before, what they call a peak experience, right? So I'm in that moment, and then as we drive in the middle span of the bridge, I hear a voice. I hear that voice I can never get away from, right? Join a cult, hooked on heroin, jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, right? So now, not only am I blind and a little drunk and driving a car over the Golden Gate Bridge, now I'm fighting with a woman who's 3,000 miles away, right? You know what, Mom? I am not in a cult, first of all, and I'm not hooked on heroin, okay? And I'm not jumping off the bridge. I'm just may be blind and driving over the bridge, okay? And yes, I recognize that they are maybe in the same ballpark, but so now I'm losing an argument to my mother in my head as I'm driving the car, and that's not good. And what made that particularly embarrassing was that, in the intervening years since our battle over Stanford, I'd learned a secret, one of the secrets about my family. We're a family of secrets. And when I was very small, my father disappeared and was gone for years and years and years. He was never in my life. And what I didn't know when I was a kid was that he had gone to San Francisco. And while he hadn't joined a cult or jumped off the bridge, he had done a lot of drugs, and he had dropped out of society pretty much forever. So, when I said I wanted to move to California, I could kind of understand, a little bit at least, why my mother felt the way she had. And now, here I was, 25, drunk, driving a car over the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm proving her right! Oh, no. So, luckily, we made it across the bridge. And I drove us through Marin a little bit, and then Tim took the wheel and got us back to my apartment. And a few weeks later, my mom came out to visit / check up on me. And I had this perverse moment where I thought I might needle her by telling her the driving story, but I knew she couldn't handle it. And so I did not tell her that story. Instead, I read her a children's book that I'd written with all my free time wandering around the park. And she surprised me. She did something that she never does. She put her face in her hands and she started crying. And I thought, is she that ashamed of me? I mean, and she looked up and she said, I'm very, very proud of you. I admire you. I admire your courage. I tried to make you not move us to California. You did it. Whatever happens, I support you. And that felt good. That made me feel that meant so much to me. And at that time, I was young. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do, so I did something that is kind of typical of my mother and me. We went to Blondie's, a lesbian bar in the Mission, and just got smashed on oversized martinis. And I do not drive anymore. I don't drive anymore. I have a wife and children, a dog, all the trappings of a middle-class life, a lot to live for, right? So then the other night, I get a call from my mother, and it's late, and the tinkle of ice in the glass, and she starts in on, you remember that kid Greg Halloran you went to high school with? You remember that kid? No, yeah. I'm looking right here, Boston Globe, they just made him commissioner of the Parks Department. It's hard to believe. I mean, imagine what you could have been if you stayed here. I mean, I bet if you moved home now, left New York, I bet they could make you deputy commissioner. And I started thinking about San Francisco and the bridge and the feel of the pedal under my foot. And as my mother talked on and on and on, I imagined slowly pushing that pedal all the way to the floor. Thank you.
Comes the world.